I tell you students with college loans and you parents of students with college loans, you realize what dupes you are to the regime. It is amazing. This student loan reform, the student loan program reform, it's amazing. We got a random act of journalism here by the Atlantic Monthly that illustrates just how few people this affects, how hugely expensive it is. It's a farce. It's a total farce. It misleads and it deceives students. And it's going to end up saving students $8. This is one of the biggest jokes that come down the pike in a long time, and I'm going to set it straight. It's a convoluted, intricately woven web of deceit. But that's what I do here, is make the complex understandable. I'm going to take a stab at this as we kick off the big program today. Great to have you with us. Rush Limbaugh at 800-282-2882, the email address. lrushbaugh@eibnet.com. All right, here's basically what we have. We have a random act of journalism from the Atlantic Monthly, of all places, left-wing rag, with a couple of faux pseudo-conservatives writing now and then for so-called balance. And they published an article yesterday about Obama's student loan bailout, and their headline is this: Obama's student loan order saves the average grad less than $10 a month. So that's what Obama thinks it costs to buy their vote. You students, you parents of students, your votes can be had for $8. Now, granted, you wouldn't know this if I, El Rushbaugh, wasn't about to tell you, because I don't think you read Atlantic Monthly, and I wouldn't blame you if you don't. It's one of the reasons I get combat pay. I do. I'm going to explain it to you. But that's what your vote is worth. They think they can get... Now, obviously, they think that you believe you're going to get much more help and much more assistance or relief than $8, but you're not. The sub-headline in the Atlantic Monthly story spells out how even $10 is overly optimistic. Here's what it says: the monthly impact of the president's new effort for most Americans paying off college debt will be between $4 and $8. The article goes on to talk about how outrageous the cost of a college education is, how outrageously it's gone up, which has caused student loans to have grown by 511% since 1999. And most student loan debt, get this now, this is interesting. Most student loan debt was accrued over the past 10 years. 82% of all student loan, from the get-go, from the beginning of student loans, 82% of all debt has been accrued over the past 10 years. And they go on to say that Obama's proposals are basically meaningless, which is what we tried to say here yesterday. But it's nice to see that others are noticing it too. So here's a pretty good overview of the whole situation. And by the way, this is all being done by executive order. And I am here to tell you that if Bush or any Republican was using the executive order process this way, there would be howling from all corners. Bypassing Congress, executive fiat. Who does he think he is? What does he think this is? A dictatorship? Those kinds of headlines and questions would be out there. Drive-bys would be filled with cries of imperial executive branch actions. But with Obama, all you hear is the crickets chirping, even if you hear that. Obama's student loan order saves the average graduate less than $10 a month. The monthly impact of the president's new effort for most Americans paying off college debt will be between $4 and $8 per month. Of the many long-term problems the U.S. economy faces, student loans are a big one. Education costs are rising very quickly, and incomes aren't. As a result, students will have to borrow more and more money to get university degrees. They'll have a tougher time paying their loans off because incomes are stagnant. Obama seeks to respond to this with an executive order in the next part of his we can't wait unilateral stimulus effort. And while the president's heart may be, this is the Atlantic Monthly doing what they can to throw him a bone. While the president's heart may be in the right place, his effort isn't likely to have much impact. The problem is the cost of college is growing rapidly. Now, that wouldn't be a problem if incomes were growing as quickly as tuition and fees, but they aren't. And in order to cope with the growing expense of college, more students are relying on bigger loans. And by the way, folks, what are they getting for these loans, for these educations, for these degrees? What are they getting? You know, Susie Cream Cheese gets into George Washington University and borrows from the government the requisite $212,000 to obtain an undergraduate degree. And what is Susie Cream Cheese's degree in? She's spent it on a degree in oppressed people in the Orient, some meaningless degree like Conflict Resolution 505, whatever, some meaningless, worthless degree. She comes out after borrowing $212,000 with no marketable skills, and the only thing she has learned at Bill Ayers University is it's all America's fault. She comes out, she goes in and gets a stupid degree, worthless education, $210,000 in debt, and she has no marketable skills. And it's America's fault after she's borrowed all this money. So now here comes Obama riding to the rescue. After his buddies in academe, i.e. the Bill Ayers types, have taken these young skulls full of mush and turned them into basically pizza. That's a little bone thrown to Herman Cain. They come out and they have worthless degrees. And they're profoundly in debt. And Obama's, don't worry, I'm here. I'll make it okay. Bigger loans, higher tuition. And by the way, nobody ever complains that the colleges are charging tuition and fees that are rising out of the realm of reasonableness. Never happens. Student loans have grown by 511% since 1999. Disposable income has grown by just 73%. And there's a chart here, accompanies this, that illustrates that most outstanding student loan debt, 82% of it, was accrued by students in the last 10 years. Now, that is a stunning fact, folks. Tallying up all of the student loan debt in history, 82% of it was accrued in the last 10 years. So here's Obama now out promoting a fraudulent solution. Just like everything else he does is fraudulent. He's not going to create jobs with his tax bill. He's not going to improve the housing market with that housing executive order. He is not going to help students with the student loan executive order. It's all about more lies. It's all about more promises. Now, Obama's executive orders, the president seeks to make the situation a little bit easier for some of those graduates. He's going to create an executive order that has 3 components. Number 1, Obama will clear the way for borrowers with direct government loans and government-backed private loans to consolidate their balances. The White House estimates that this will cut the effective interest rate on student loans by up to 0.5%, as in big whoop. Number 2, his executive order will limit the amount of student loan payments to 10% of a graduate's income. Currently, the limit is 15%. So the maximum payment that you would make is 10% of your income. Well, if you're Susie Cheesecake and you come out with that diversity in the Orient degree after spending $212,000, you're probably going to get a job that might pay you $8,000 a year at some social services outfit or a nonprofit. And so that's what your 10% repayment schedule is based on. And another executive order, Obama will allow debt still outstanding after 20 years to be forgiven. It's currently 25 years. Now, the question, why pay anything? Why pay off anything? These student loans are going to end up costing the taxpayers anywhere between $800,000 and $900,000 per student. The student on the loan repayment, if they make the payment, will save $8 to $10 maximum a month, $4 to $8 more realistically a month. While Obama is out giving the impression that basically the student loan is going to end up being free and forgiven if you don't pay it off in 20 years. And as the loan forgiveness section Of all of these parts of Obama's executive order, the loan forgiveness aspect will have the least impact. According to The Atlantic, by moving the timeline from 25 to 20 years, it could be significant in the long run, but it won't be felt for decades. Remember, 82% of the current student loan debt outstanding was accrued in just the past 10 years. So it'll be at least another 10 years before any of those borrowers have hit their 20-year mark in their student loan payments. Why is a student loan more important than a mortgage? The reason that a student loan is more important than a mortgage is as a campaign issue. That's all this is. This is all a fraud. My point in giving you all of these numbers, the numbers we're giving you here are real and illustrate the fraudulent aspects of this. Obama realizes, snurdly, we prove it every time I start talking about education on this program, the phones melt. It matters to people. The education of their children matters to people like nothing else does. They are very concerned about it. Now, Obama knows it, so here he comes with this magical student loan reform. And the point is, I've taken it over. And it's not going to, don't worry about it. It's not going to cost you anything. That the point is, don't worry about it. I'm in charge. Your student loan's fine. We're reforming the program. We're going to make it easy for you to make payments. It's a fraud. It's not. It's the real shame here is, by the time it's all implemented, the few number of people that will really affect is shocking. It's like the mortgage and the underwater, the foreclosure program, mortgage modification. Look at all the grandiose designs and promises. Look at how many people actually participated in it. And then of that few, of that small number, look at how many people actually got any assistance. Zilch, zero, nada. Same thing here. Campaign issue, pure and simple. Student loan more important than a mortgage because education's a huge campaign issue to people. It really isn't any more complicated than that. That's right. You have to pay your mortgage off, then you have to pay their student loans off. Exactly right. That's exactly, you've nailed it. You pay your mortgage, you pay it on time, and then you're going to pay off their student loans. Well, that's exactly what Obama stands for. Obama's proposal was geared to getting the best headlines for the least amount of money. It's all about optics. It's all about compassion. It's all about making the student loan community think that he cares. Fox News has a great interpretation of the Obama plan. And here's the headline: Obama taps taxpayers for student stimulus. Obama looks to wring stimulus from saturated student loan market. $1 trillion is the estimated amount of student loan debt owed by Americans. $1 trillion, and 82% of it accrued in the last 10 years. In keeping with his new campaign, We Can't Wait, Obama today rolled out the plan, and he's seeking to use this power of the executive order to obtain a taxpayer-financed stimulus that Congress won't approve. And this is Chris Steyerwalt at Fox. He says, takes this example of Susie Cream Cheese, gets into George Washington University, borrows from the government the requisite $212,000 to obtain an undergraduate degree. Her repayment schedule will be based on what she earns. So if she opts to heed the president's call for public service, this is one of the prerequisites of getting a good student loan, that after you graduate, you go into public service. So if Susie Cream Cheese opts to heed his call for public service, takes a job as a city social worker, and earns $25,000, her payments would be limited to $1,411 a year after the $10,890 of poverty-level income is subtracted from her total exposure. So you take her $25,000, subtract 10.8 from it, for the poverty level. 20 years at that rate would have taxpayers recoup $28,000 of their $212,000 loan to Susie. That's how all this works. The president will allow student debtors to refinance and consolidate loans on more favorable terms, further decreasing the payoff for taxpayers. And all of this comes at a moment when a lot of economists are warning of a college debt bubble that is distorting college tuition rates and threatening to further damage credit markets. Look, I'm up against it on time, and I got to take a break. But the bottom line is it's a huge fraud. It's not going to save anybody any money on the student side, and the taxpayers get screwed royally. It's another transfer, redistribution of wealth. It's an optics move. It's designed to make the recipients here think the government's taking care of them, and they don't have to worry about their student loans anymore. Democrat Party is great. Obama's great. It's a re-election issue, and it's a fraud. And we'll be back. Don't go away.